I know that everyone wants to get out of here in time for the Pro Bowl. So I'm thinking that maybe we'll, a couple of questions from the audience. And I think we'll do the lightning round here. So 2-minute response from each of you to these 2 questions, and then your closing statements. Okay. So here are one of the questions from the audience. Pennsylvania is a part of the lawsuit that is challenging the constitutionality of the federal health care law. And the question is, what would your position as Attorney General be? How would you address or respond to that?
Sure, because I think I go first, right? Okay. First, I wouldn't have voted for it and fought so hard for it if it was unconstitutional. It was absolutely constitutional. The Supreme Court should rule on it in this spring, and that should put that to bed. But as you know, Tom Corbett filed a lawsuit saying it was unconstitutional. It's wrong. But more importantly, you need a candidate on the top of the ticket when it's President Obama and Bob Casey and the whole ticket that's going to be able to talk about how that bill is going to save 45,000 lives in America. You know, I'm one of those social justice Catholics. I'm at church every Sunday with my 2 kids, except today because I left at 7 this morning, and now I'm obviously on record that I have to go to confession this week. But you have to be willing to fight for it. To say, hey, listen, if you want to go how it was in the past, where women, if you're a woman, that's considered a pre-existing condition. That's wrong. At the end of the day, during those tough fights in the Congress and in the Army and in every day of my life, when push comes to shove, I would say to myself, you know, when Maggie Murphy's 20 years from now in college, is she going to be proud of what her daddy fought for when he was given the chance to serve? Are you going to be proud of what you've done when we served together to work so hard? So it's absolutely constitutional.
Putting Pennsylvania in that lawsuit was the result of politics in the Attorney General's office. There is no room for it. No room at all. You need to enforce the laws. Mr. Murphy co-sponsored the bills, I enforced them. That's what we need to happen. Day one, by close of business, if I'm elected Attorney General, Pennsylvania is coming out of that lawsuit because there is no room for politics in the office of Attorney General.
Okay, and one more, and this is, so the question is, it's unlikely that the Pennsylvania legislature will pass legislation to equitably fund education for every child, regardless of wealth or poverty, of the community in which they live. Given that, how would you as Attorney General use the Pennsylvania Constitution and laws that are currently on the books to use the courts to compel the government and legislature to equitably fund schools and school districts across Pennsylvania?
Well, first I would let them know what happens when kids don't have anything to do after school. After school programs were cut, sports, music, arts, kids have nothing to do. All the studies have shown that the highest crime rates occur between 3:30 and 6:30 amongst juveniles. If you don't give children an outlet and something to do and a responsible activity, then crime goes up by 70%. 70% of children under the age of 17. So 2 things need to be done. I would make sure that they know that that happens and that crime increases, and this is exactly what their budget cuts are doing. And no need to build more jails. That's not the answer, because you know what? We have a responsibility to our kids too. We have a responsibility to protect the public from crime increasing, correct? But we also have a responsibility to make sure that our children are brought up right. 9 times out of 10, they're not evil. They have nothing to do. They need to be redirected. They need to be rehabilitated. They need to be given something to do. We owe that to them. We are responsible parents and citizens over children because they don't have the capacity to understand what their actions will bring about. That is our responsibility. That is what the Office of Attorney General can do. Make sure that they have the crime statistics. Make sure that as Attorney General, you also sit on PCCD, the Pennsylvania Commission on Crime and Delinquency. You need to work through them. You need to make sure that it is loud and clear what will happen. If the budget is not increased, then we need to do exactly what we did in the DA's office. We need to get out there into the community. I was assigned to school in the DA's office, and all of us were. And we would work with the police officers, with the administration, the principal, and the school liaisons. We would meet once a month and make sure that if the drug dog needed to be brought in, then the drug dog was brought in, that the children were safe, that the teachers were safe. I unfortunately had a school that had a lot of problems. It was right after Columbine. They called in bomb threats for 3 straight days. Well, that was my responsibility to get in there and let the parents and everyone know what the law was. We need to be smarter on law enforcement approaches, because it is not just our responsibility to prosecute crimes, it's the responsibility of a prosecutor to make sure that there are no victims. Children deserve better, the community deserves better. There are many ways to do it. There are mentoring programs, there's intermediate programs, there's gang programs that the Attorney General hasn't signed on to that will identify at-risk children into the schools and get it before it happens. My time is up. We could talk all day long about what we need to make sure that children are better protected and the community is better protected.
You have to work with the commissions and the legislature and everything else, but you need a leader who's going to be able to cut through the chase and inspire people to act, to make sure that they know that when you cut $1 billion from education, that's not just an education bill, that's a crime bill. There are several ways where you can save hundreds of millions of dollars. One, alternative courts. They work. If you go to an alternative court, you're much less likely to recommit a crime. Whether that's a drug court, whether that's a sex court. We have the first sex court in Allegheny County. It's been very effective. Whether that's veterans court, which was founded in Buffalo, but they built it across Pennsylvania. These are courts that have targeted people who come in front of them. But in a sense, that's being reactive. You need an Attorney General who's not just reactive, but proactive. That's why I talk about being tough and smart on crime. When you talk about being proactive, that means the after-school programs. That means the educational programs. That means to make sure that kids are getting fed, so they're paying attention in class and they're not getting in trouble. You have to partner with local legislatures. You have to do what's necessary to get the job done and use every single tool in the toolbox to do it. Now, how it's been going on for the last 4 decades in Pennsylvania hasn't been working. From 1973, we've had about 300,000 people in this country go into jail. Now it's over 3 million. To build prisons, lock them up, throw them away, does not work. For violent criminals, yeah, you lock them up, throw them away for a long time. But to be smarter, would use target with law enforcement to make sure that doesn't happen, to be proactive. That is what's needed right now. And that's what we'll do, given the chance to serve as your Attorney General.
Thank you. Closing statements, and I guess Patrick, you opened, so
Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much for all of your attention. I love the fact that you really want to know the qualifications and the credentials of the candidates for Attorney General. It is of vital importance. You know that. I know I'm preaching to the choir. But we need to make sure that everyone else in Pennsylvania knows that. The job is Chief Law Enforcement Officer of the state of Pennsylvania. The rules is that you need to know the laws of Pennsylvania. Mr. Murphy talks about being a leader, and that is true, very true. I agree with that. You cannot be a leader unless you know where you're going. You have to have been there thousands and thousands of times, like I have, in the courtrooms and at the crime scenes. I've prosecuted thousands of cases over 12 years in the prosecutor's office. I specialized in child sexual assault, elder abuse, both financial and physical, public corruption, and financial crimes. That is what the people of Pennsylvania need right now. That is what they need. They need someone to enforce the laws, all of the laws. They need to make sure that the Office of Attorney General is just as the law says. According to the Commonwealth Attorneys Act, it is an independent agency. That is exactly what it needs to be. It cannot be politicized. It cannot be inexperienced. We've done that. We see what happens. We see the destruction that it causes to our children and to our neighborhoods. I've prosecuted every violent crime you can think of: murder, rape, robbery, drugs. The Office of Attorney General has hundreds of agents, whether they're BNI or BCI, narcotics or crime. When they go to ask you a question, you need to know the answer. Almost all of my credits, we have to have continuing legal education credits, for the past 16 years have been all about law enforcement and crime and the laws of Pennsylvania. It's vital. And I can tell you, even after being in the criminal justice system for so long, there are still things that even I don't know. It's very important. Please make your decision wisely. Please believe that we can have more. Believe that we can do more. We can be safer. We can be better. And it is up to you then to look at our qualifications and make sure that you pick the candidate whose track record prosecuting cases in Pennsylvania will go toe-to-toe with any Republican in the fall. Thank you very much. It has been truly a pleasure being here.
Well, I want to first, Phil, thank you much for moderating this debate. When you said, when you talked to Paul, when you said, sorry, Paul, when you started moderating the debate, but the question was about the Pro Bowl, I thought you were going to, I used to be an Eagle security guard way back when I was 16 years of age. I was about 120 pounds. I didn't look real tough, but it was a good experience to jump out of airplanes for a living and to prosecute terrorists. But I do want to say, Paul, thank you very much. I also want to say, Sam, thank you, and Jean and Kathy for all the great work, and to all of you in this room. As I said earlier, I mean, this is where the rubber meets the road. You're the ones that, you come here in the meetings, you take your Sunday afternoon to be here to listen to what I would say are two great candidates, and then you work your tails off, not just in April, but next November. And that's critically important in this election. So I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. I would say that, I have a lot of respect and admiration, for my opponent and for her time as a prosecutor, and I know she respects me as well. And I'm very proud of the fact that I was a federal prosecutor, military prosecutor. And I'm proud that when I came back from the military, I practiced law here in Pennsylvania before Congress and now after Congress. But I'm also very proud of the experience that I have been given in my life. In the military, prior to being a judge advocate, in the Army Judge Advocate General's Corps, as a member of Congress, as a community leader, to get things done. And that's what we need in this office. Someone who has the ability and has shown the record of getting things done on behalf of all of us, who have represented our values. This office is too critically important not to be here today and not to care. So I know I'm, in a sense, preaching to the choir, but when you go out there and do what you all do, I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. And when you're knocking on those doors, and when you're talking to folks, when you say, if you care about the environment, you should care about the Attorney General's race, because he does prosecute, or she does prosecute, environmental laws, because they have concurrent jurisdiction. If you care about civil rights in Pennsylvania, you should care about the Attorney General's race, because that's someone who will fight for equality as the Attorney General, as a chief law enforcement officer. If you care about equality, if you care about a woman's right to choose, if you care about being tough and smart on crime, these are all reasons why we should be able to motivate folks out there to do the right thing and vote for a new Attorney General next year. I want to close by just saying that in this role and in this campaign, it has been a tremendous opportunity to meet a lot of folks out there. And a lot of folks, ask, what's your motivation to get into this race? And to me, whether it was when I was clerking in the Philadelphia District Attorney's Office, whether I was in the Army JAG Corps, in Congress, I have met so many great people. But I've also met people who have been victims of violence, who are hurting out there and are currently hurting out there. And they need all of us in this room, and all of us out there that'll watch it on the video, to understand how important it is, but also why they should have hope. They should have hope because they should know in their core, like most other Pennsylvanians, that things are not going right now. And that's why we need to come together to win, to make sure that someone in that office is the counterbalance to to Tom Corbett and the extreme Republicans that are in right now. That is what is needed. That is what our duty is, and that's what we need to do. Thank you so very much for having me here today, and I look forward to seeing you on the campaign trail. Thanks so much.